Coming. Just gotta scroll back in here. What's up? Just scrolling back in. Yo, looking kind of swole with it. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful one out there. Thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate you stopping on by. Today, for our Long Song Saturday, we are going to listen, enjoy the debut album by the band Their album Soul Mining today, released 1983. We had listened to Dusk quite a while ago, and now it is time to return to the with their debut album. This album being suggested and recommended by the following: Manhattan Man, David Emery, Falcon Gal, David Cobson, Familia Arlardine, AK. Did you say that you like this album? No, I think you don't like this band. Actually, S. Collins Huck, Kevin with an M at the end, Dis Collins Select Moose, James Warner. I'm trying to do these quick because I know some of you aren't here for this. Happy Me, the Happy One, Guy Eternal, Kate Howe, Music Droog, Greg Gilmore. This list is going on. Namus Nestrel, Auntie Primrose. Oh, this list is actually going back to 3 years ago. O-Town Bear and 3 Egg She, and a lot of others. Thank you guys so much for recommending the album and suggesting it to me. So yeah, we've listened to Dusk already quite a while ago, and I had been having this album on my list. I've had this album on my list for a while to get to, and so now is the day. This is the time. This is the day. Speaking of which, that is, at least looking at the track list, that is one song I do know. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that's probably the first song I've ever heard from the band, because that is like a very popular song from them. So I do know that one, but looking at the track list, none of this else looks familiar to me. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and dive on in. Of course, if it's your first time here, if you've just stumbled upon this video and you've clicked on it and you're like, hey, who's this guy and what's he doing? My name's Justin and we're listening to music. That's what we do. That's what we do here. But not only are we here to just listen to the music and talk about it, we're here to have a little bit of a good time, entertain here and there, just relax. Don't think too hard about it. Just go with the flow and feel it out. That's what we do here. And thank you for being here. If it is your first time, press the like button. If it's not your first time, press the like button. Just press it for me. Get it out the way before we go ahead and dive into the album and into this journey. If you'd like, you can also support what I do on Patreon for as low as $2 a month. You don't have to, but it helps me in what I do here. Also, just as a side note, because I like to give a little bit of a story or something before we dive into it, you know? Like, I want you guys to have a good time. We're just hanging out, listening to music. So I made a cup of coffee, right? And it's not really creamer in there. Usually I drink my coffee black. On the weekends, sometimes I add a little cream just to like celebrate getting to the end of the week. And my wife had bought these little cappuccino powder packets that like turns your hot water into cappuccino. It was just a little cheap thing she bought just to like try it out. We tried it, was trash. Like it was trash, right?
No thanks. Yeah,
but
no thanks.
I'm very big into not throwing away stuff. I don't like to waste things and waste money. So I was like, let me try this. Let me experiment a little bit. I made a cup of coffee and then I used the powder cappuccino as the creamer in it. And honestly, it actually works. So listen, sometimes you have to repurpose what things are purposed for. Anyways, now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the music. Let's go ahead and dive into the first track here, which would be really helpful if I actually had the album up so that we could listen to it, which I don't, and I'm currently doing at this moment. Now I got it ready. Guys, this is Soul Mining, Thank you for spending the next hour or so with me. And as always, my friends, as always, you already know, this is to you. It's like a scattered melody. It's a fast synthy bass. Okay, let's talk about the first song on the debut album. Say that 5 times fast. First of all, when Matt Johnson enters with his vocals, which are distinctly morose, he has that deep kind of, I don't know if it's considered baritone or not, but he sings in a deep, almost speaking manner to you, which I really like that. I really like the atmosphere that he laid down for us in Dusk. I think that that's a really cool album. And this, obviously being the debut, this track is kind of experimental to start off the album. I feel like this is that tunnel through Willy Wonka's weird, hallucinogenic boat ride. This is the entrance to that tunnel because it's not an easy entry point. It's not a conventional, what you would expect entry point, kind of throwing you right into the deep end of things. And I like that. It's a slap in the face. It's a cold splash of water to get you ready for what's to follow. And of course, the next song, which I do know, is definitely a little bit more catchy, right? It's a little bit more conventional while still having a lot of nuance to it. But this one sounds like where I would take Thomas Dolby, for example, and put him, or what I know of him, into the bright, very fun, melodic kind of electronics. This is near the other side, not totally, but near the other side of the coin, where it's a little bit more abstract. There's a lot going on, just as you would hear, for example, of Dolby's music, but it's a little bit more industrial. It feels like to me. It's a little colder. Not in a bad way, it's just the atmosphere that's given. And as as he continues singing through the song, not only does he begin to get more fervent as it goes, but so does the music. The guitar solo comes in and rips up. The synth has a more of alarming and distressing sound, of course, especially near the end. The drums become a little bit more chaotic, like it becomes more dense as it goes. So I really like the way that the track builds up from this weird, staticky white noise kind of sound in the beginning, and how it builds up without melody, because during the first verse, it's just Matt singing and the drums. That's it. Then, like I said during the track, when I said, hey, there's no melodies here, all of a sudden, it starts popping in and clicking on. And I just think that that's a very intelligent way of building the track into something, or from something not expected, into something still not expected, but now starting to make more sense, and it's all starting to come together. There are a lot of musicians playing on this album besides Mr. Johnson. On this particular track, you're going to have, Thomas Lear on the synths, and his name looks familiar to me. He's played with the electropop band Act. His name looks familiar, like we've heard him play with someone else that we've listened to, but I don't recognize anything immediately looking at who he's worked with. Obviously, the bass popping was really, really fantastic on here. Trying to find who played the bass on this one. You guys can look at what I'm looking at. I always do a Control F just to find it really quick. Zach Manika on the drums on this track, but who's playing the bass on this track? Here we go. Kamel G. Hines is playing the bass on this track. Just really, really nice, especially when the pops start coming in. Slap of the bass. I should have kept you actually here because we're going to look at the lyrics. Let's go ahead and look at that. I'm hiding in the corner of an overgrown garden, covering my body in leaves and trying not to breathe. So trying to hide, trying to camouflage themselves, or himself. All my childhood dreams are bursting at the seams and dangling around my knees. I've been deformed by emotional scars, and the cancer of love has eaten out my heart. I've been stripped bare and nobody cares, and all the people I looked up to are no longer there. So he is really feeling defeated, alone, like he has to remain hidden, like no one that he loves is around. Now let's take that into consideration with the title of the track. I've been waiting for tomorrow all my life. All desires have been denied to put me in this state of mind. Another year over, and what have I done? My aspirations have shriveled in the sun. I'm crippled by guilt, blinded by science. I've been waiting for tomorrow all my life. Like waiting for the next thing. Waiting for hope to come right around the corner. Waiting for something to change. And yet, will it change if he's finding himself hiding without enacting that change? This way, keep walking, keep talking. This way, keep walking, keep talking. All desires have been denied. Okay, we've read that. That's the chorus. I've been filled with useless information spewed out by papers and radio stations. I've been hounded by fair weather friends, sowing the seeds for my discontent. Life is like a sewer, and I'm trying to wade through her. I threw in my money and made my wish, but sleeping boys catch no fish. There you go. That actually captures what I just said. You threw in your money into a proverbial wishing well and you made your wish, but sleeping boys catch no fish. You gotta do something. You can't just toss your coin to the wishing well and hope your wish comes true. You can't catch fish if you're asleep. You have to do something. You have to enact change. Change doesn't just come to you. You have to be the linchpin of change. All my childhood dreams are dangling around my knees. My mind has been polluted, my energy diluted. So he feels like he's been negatively influenced, and then his energy is sapped. So perhaps he's lost his motivation in many ways. Let's see. There's a lot of stuff here. Yeah, it's pretty much all I said. What I look for, by the way, if I ever like scroll down and look in this area, I don't care about what someone else thinks about the song. Like, for the most part, like, I mean, like, in the sense of, I don't want to hear, some random person online's meaning just the same way, I toss out my meaning. I look down here to see if there's like an interview by Matt, and Matt tells us what he heard or, why he wrote the song. I like to look at information directly from the artist. That's also why I like to like come up with my own interpretations for things and not just, read it. Even though it's good after. I like to do that after I come up with my own interpretation, because that's what music is, right? All right, let's move on into the next track here, which is going to be, hold on. That is going to, well, I already know what it's going to be. This is the day. Let's go ahead and pull it up. Here we go. Love how low he gets. And then, this is the day your life will surely change. The accordion works so well in this synthy. I think that it's pretty easy to see why that song is probably their most popular song, if not one of them. It's so incredibly catchy. It is thoroughly infectious. And who comes up with an accordion taking lead in a synth pop track like this? I think that is so cool, and it really does actually work very well. Not only in this song especially, but just like in anything electronic based or having synths around it. Here you even have like the violin swirling with it and kind of doing this cool dance. Like, these unique instruments in this particular case and this track are just so cool. It's like repurposing, once again, like repurposing my coffee, my cappuccino powder. And it just works so well. And this makes me think about years and years ago when my wife had gone to Switzerland and we were in Zurich. We were in the city while Zurich Fest was happening, which is just a big party in the city. And I remember distinctly walking by one band playing, and they were playing some sort of like party house music, like electronic music. And they had an accordion player up there. Is that an accordionist? An accordion? I don't know. They had an accordion player up there, and it just worked so well with what they're playing. And thinking about the actual tones of an accordion with a lot of electronica music or digital music in general, the tones from an accordion kind of sound like a saw wave from like a synth. It has that same jagged kind of tonality. So of course it's going to work really well here in this track. Once again, Matt sounds really, really good here. I love how low he sings, like he sings down here. But then when it gets to the chorus, this is the day, like he goes up. And it's just that really nice contrast and diversity that really makes this track stand out. Of course, in lieu of everything else, the fun hand claps. The song has that kind of swing to it that makes you want to move. It's just a very, very well-made song. And once again, you can easily see why it got so popular. Well, you didn't wake up this morning because you didn't go to bed. Cause and effect. You were watching the whites of your eyes turn red. The calendar on your wall is ticking the days off. You've been reading some old letters. You smile and think how much you've changed. All the money in the world couldn't buy back those days. Listen, time is one thing you can never get back. That's why I personally, like in my personal life, I put a lot of thought and energy into time and time management. And like, if I have the choice between time and money, I'm going to choose time every single day of the week. You pull back the curtains, the sun burns into your eyes, you watch a plane flying across a clear blue sky. This is the day your life will surely change. This is the day when things fall into place. So obviously we'll go on in the lyrics here, but I feel like this is kind of an encouraging song. Actually hitting the same meanings that perhaps the previous track talked about. Don't wait for change. This is the day. Now is the time to make that change. This is the day, as he says, when things fall into place. But you got to make those things fall. You could have done anything if you'd wanted, and all your friends and family think that you're lucky. But the side of you they'll never see is when you're left alone with the memories that hold your life together like glue. This is the day your life will surely change. This is the day. You know, like, you could have done anything you wanted, and all your friends and family think that you're lucky. But the side of you that they'll never see is when you're left alone with memories that hold your life together like glue. Like, don't let the past hold you back. Don't let memories just hold you back like, man, that was a good time. Because guess what? Like, now is a good time. You know? Like, if I think now, for example, like, let's just say, for example, you're considering going for a career, going back to school, doing something like that perhaps involves a lot of time and effort. And you say, no. It's too late for that. It's too late for that. Is it really? Picture like this. In 5 years, you're going to be saying, man, I wish I did that. Now is the time. If you want something like that and it's feasible and it's reasonable, why not? I mean, truly, why not? It says this song reached number 71 on the UK singles chart. Let's see. A re-recorded version, retitled That Was the Day, was released as the lead track on the Disinfected EP. So this re-recorded version, what's different about it? I'm curious. I'm not going to listen to it right now. I'm just curious what's different about it. Is it shorter? I mean, I see the album version, a single edit, and we listened to the album version. Yeah, we listened to the album version. I guess somewhat obviously. It didn't chart in the US. Manic Street Preachers also have a version as well. This didn't chart in the US at all? I mean, I've heard this song. I'm trying to think about like where I first heard the song. You know what? Was this track included in Saints Row? Saints Row. This is the Day. Was it? Was it one of the tracks that? No. I don't know. I must have heard it from a game or something somewhere, or maybe I did hear it on the radio. I don't know, but I've definitely heard the track. That's for sure. Let's move on into the next one, guys, which is going to be The Sinking Feeling. Here we go.
In desperate need of repair, the path of least resistance. I'm just a symptom of the mark.
Everything. So I'm sitting here listening to that bass line, which I love how strong and rubbery it sounds. Like, it just has a really good tone. And I'm sitting here listening to the bass line. I'm like, you know, it sounds familiar to me. Like, I've heard close to that before. And while I can't remember off the top of my head which song it is, it's from Green Day. Obviously, Green Day came after, I know. But it's one of their popular songs. I can't think of it about what it is. But it's from Green Day. Either way, that aside, cool song. I love how once again in the verse, it's for the most part really just the singing and the drums. And then I love that little pause right before it's getting into the chorus. That little hesitation that he takes. Continues on with the line. And then after that, it's just this, the dams break. And it's just this waterfall, this flooding of all the music, all the melodies. The bass, the guitar, the synths, like all of it just flows out really, really strongly. And I just thought that was so cool how it goes from, in a way, complete emptiness and complete bare necessities into something like it explodes in colors and explodes in vividness, vividality. It's vivid with all it sounds. Like, that's just really a nice way of doing that. The guitar I also really enjoyed here, and I'm assuming that it's going to be Matt playing guitar, because I don't see anyone else credited playing guitar on the album, actually. So I'm just going to assume that it's Matt playing. And I really like how he comes out of there with that strong lead and eventually backs up with some nice chords throughout. Like, it's just a really good track and a really great structure, the way that musical dam is broken there. All my books lay on the table, waiting to unfold. I sit and stare at my reflection while the darkness chills my bones. My head feels like a junk shop in desperate need of repair. The path of least resistance leads to a garbage heap of despair. I think I better get back in bed. I feel like this is, I mean, as he says, that sinking feeling. It doesn't necessarily have to be as deep as like depression, but I feel like it's that feeling when you know you have to do certain things throughout the day. Like, you wake up and you want to be productive, but it's just one of those days where you're like, I'm just going to go back to bed. At least a little bit more. And then before you know it, it's 5 p.m. and you're still in your pajamas. I'm just a symptom of moral decay that's gnawing at the heart of the country. I'm just a symptom of moral decay gnawing at the heart of the country. You can't destroy your problems by destroying yourself. That's a good line. Death is not the answer, for your soul may burn in hell. My memory, my fond deceiver, is turning all my past into pain. While I'm being raped by progress, tomorrow's world is here to stay. They wouldn't have it any other way. He's really finding himself in what he sees as an immovable situation. You can't destroy your problems by destroying yourself. Yes, very true. That's not going to solve the problem. My memory, my fond deceiver. Perhaps he looks back at fonder times, at better times, and those times deceive him with where he is now. But at the same time, he describes very strongly being raped by progress, like he can't move forward, possibly because he's stuck in the past. He says, just a symptom of moral decay that's gnawing at the heart of the country. So he takes this personal feeling and applies it into a larger kind of geopolitical way as well. That's good. That's real good. Let's move to the next track. My leg's up now. Listen. I move in this chair so much. A lot of times, let me back up if you guys can see. Most of the time when I'm in this chair, my legs are up. You can't 100% see, but I'm crisscrossed in my chair like I'm like owling right now. But I don't know. I move around a lot. I shift a lot, and I'm kind of feeling like I want my knees up in my chair with me. Anyways, next track, my friends. Let's move on to Uncertain Smile. That's kind of like a... very chill song. That's magic. Like, of course, that's a really fantastic song, and I really enjoyed it from the first half. But it kind of goes without saying that the second half with the piano solo just going off is kind of the like best thing, right? That was fantastic. There's that moment where it shifts and the piano starts to come in, that even the music changes, like almost to let that piano come in and breathe. And I love that. It was just like this little inhale moment and then exhale, and what do you know, here's some piano to go along with you for the next 3 minutes or so. That was fantastic. I love how the piano changes everything. The piano played on this particular track by Jules Holland, whose name looks familiar, and I know we've heard something from him before. Man, I know we've heard something from him before. He's played with a lot of people: Sting, Eric Clapton, Knopfler, Gilmore. We've heard something from him. We've not like from him directly, but we've heard something that he's been featured in. And I'm just trying to quickly, okay, On an Island. I've heard that from David Gilmour. I think I did one track here on the channel, but I've heard that on my own, personally. I'm not quite sure what else from here. But either way, like, really, really love the way he plays the piano. I love what I call the twinkling, and the strong chords that he brings up, especially on the back half of the piano solo. He brings in 2 chords at a certain moment that kind of like signal a moment of change for what he does with the rest of his piano work, even though it doesn't change too much, but it does kind of back off a little bit and give us something a little bit more minimalistic, whereas before it had this kind of soulful jazziness to it. Either way, really, really fantastic. Getting back to the rest of it, I really like, I guess, in a sense, the beginning of this song, and for the most part before the piano, takes away a lot of the synth, takes away a lot of the extra accoutrement that we've heard in certain moments with the synth, the fiddle, violin, like all these other things, the accordion. And it just kind of takes us back to a typical standard guitar, voice, drums, bass. Like it just kind of goes back to that. And I love the way that Matt sings here. I mention it every time, but I love when he goes low. And he adds like this he has this very certain nuance down there, which he could fit very well into like a goth rock band. Obviously, he's not singing anything in that vein at all, but his voice carries this dark romanticism to it, this deep intuition and deep, what's the word? It starts with an I. I'm trying to think of, like, I don't know, introspectiveness. That's the word, kind of. Like there's a deep introspection and reflection in the way that he sings, and I just really appreciate that the character with which he sings with. in this song, and of course, many, many more. Let's look at the lyrics, though. Peeling the skin back from my eyes, I felt surprised that the time on the clock was the time I usually retired. To the place where I cleared my head of you, but just for today, I think I'll lie here and dream of you. Trying to get over this person, trying to get over this relationship, and saying, usually, I'm done at this point, but, let me indulge a little bit and just think about you a little bit here. I got you under my skin where the rain can't get in, but if the sweat pours out, just shout. I'll try to swim and pull you out. Interesting how he says, I've got you under my skin where the rain can't get in, so an external coming into the internal. But he says if sweat pours out, that's internal coming out. That was good. And he says, I'll try to swim and pull you out. A howling wind blows the litter as the rain flows, and street lamps pour orange-colored shapes through your windows. A broken soul stares from a pair of watering eyes. Uncertain emotions force an uncertain smile. Then he repeats those lyrics again. This is that uncertainty of, our relationship went bad. It went south. It didn't work out. But perhaps they meet each other or see each other at some point, and there's that smile, but it's an uncertain smile. It's like a broken smile, like, I'm kind of happy to see you, but really not. But it's just this weird kind of relationship, especially after a breakup or a relationship ending, of any sort, really. There is a Wikipedia article for this track. Let me pull it back, put you guys back up here. Says it was released as a single in 1982 before being re-recorded. Okay, this one re-recorded too, huh? The album version of the song is known for its extended piano outro. Squeeze! That's where he's from. Did it say that like immediately on his thing? I did say that right there, huh? I skipped that and I saw like all these. That's where it's from. Squeeze. Okay. It was the band's first charting song, reached number 68 in the UK singles chart and 43 in Australia. Upon re-release, it reached number 31 in the Netherlands. It says in the early stages, the song was titled Cold Spell Ahead in its demo phase. Steve O'Pearce, the owner of Some Bizarre Records, told bandleader Matt Johnson to keep reworking it so that it could become a single. keep working on it. Cut this, add this. We want this to be a single. It impressed London Recordings, and Pierce convinced the label to give Johnson an all-expenses-paid trip to New York City in order to record the song. That sounds kind of nice. Johnson, who felt that London was not friendly to him, ended up signing with CBS Records instead, after Pierce reneged on his handshake agreement with London and initiated a bidding war on the strength of this song. That is funny. That's funny. He says, nah, thanks for the trip, but I'm going to do my own thing. Hey, what can you say? There's a bunch of other stuff here as well. The album version maintains the Zylimba intro, but replaces a saxophone solo with a piano solo. Okay. So obviously we heard, obviously we heard the album version, not the single version. It says, Johnson said of Holland's performance, it was a sweltering summer's day and he turned up in full leathers on his vintage Norton bike, so he wasn't cool, he was sweltering somewhat. But he was very humble, very low-key, nice person. It was recorded on a nice piano, and I still own it, a Yamaha C3 Baby Grand. And it was in a really good live room. Someone asked me why I chose to put a piano solo on that song, and it was simply because we had such a nice-sounding piano in such a nice-sounding room. Sometimes that's all it takes. Nice this, nice that. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's move on into the next track, which is going to be the Twilight Hour. Here we go.
It's almost too hot to move outside your window. In case she doesn't like what she sees, you've been up.
Such a nice variety of sounds on this track.
Cutting chunks from your heart and rubbing the meat into your...
I loved the instrumental build-up in this one. To be honest, when that big drum came in, that boom, ta, boom, ta, boom, boom, that I felt like it was a little unnecessary. I just really liked how understated the atmosphere was before that, how each of the instruments and all these sounds begin to stir up very gently, primarily moved by the percussion that's just kind of tipping and tapping in the back, just kind of gently moving everything along. The sitar-like sound, I don't think it was a sitar, but either a sound like it from keys or the guitar, was very entrancing. It was just kind of magical. And once again, a lot of this was just so quiet, which I guess is why the abruptness of that drum coming in was like, it kind of took away from the atmosphere of it all. Because I love the atmosphere. As that builds up, of course, with Matt singing, like it all just moves and kind of creeps through the room. And it just has this really cool way of moving around. I think the sounds on it, the picked strings, whether it's violin or something else, was really nice as well. There's just a lot of undercurrents in this track that I felt got kind of overshadowed by that big drum kind of kicking everything here. You have Ann Stevenson on violin here, and then Martin McCarrick on cello. And then those drums going to be performed once again by Zeke Manika. Like, it was just really cool, like, hearing all that. Oh, and hey, actually, I'm looking at Martin McCarrick because I didn't recognize his name. Best known for being a member of Susie and the Banshees for 7 years. So, you know, there's that. But, yeah, the track just had this really cool tone to it. And I would have liked that big drum to just, like, get out of here. Because, honestly, I could see this being my favorite song on the track. But there's something just so in your face about that drum. I was like, it just took it away a little bit. Just a little bit. You're lying on your bed, and making shadows on the wall. It's almost too hot to move outside your window. People are driving home from work for the weekend, but you're waiting for the phone to ring. You're going to tell her exactly what you think. I like the way that Matt sings this one, because he's singing as that narrator, right? Speaking towards this particular person. You know, everyone else is living their life. You're just waiting for that phone to ring so you can tell her what you think. Now, is that what happens? You practice getting your mouth around the words that explain the way you feel. You've been scared to show your real self in case she doesn't like what she sees. You've been a prostitute to humility. She's invaded your life, and you've got to live apart in order to survive. You were emotionally independent but starved for affection, but now you've been trapped by tenderness and beaten into submission. It's now way past the hour she usually phones. You've decided not to tell her your little joke. What? You're expecting that call and she doesn't call right away, and you're like, you're rethinking. You're like, maybe I shouldn't see what was on my mind. You gathered up all the courage, you built yourself up, and the call never comes, and you're like, I guess I don't, maybe another day, maybe another time. Or maybe you should just call her. Where could she have got to? Why is she torturing you? You roll on your side, you run your fingers through your hair, you're scared of losing her and facing yourself. That's a great line there. And once again, just getting back to Matt, I love the way that he's writing this and the way he's explaining and delivering this with great narration. A red sky at night may be a shepherd's delight, but you're cutting chunks from your heart and rubbing the meat in your eyes. She can't leave you now. You've given up all your friends. You're relying on her for your independence. She can't leave you here alone and defenseless. Oh, yeah, you can. And he reiterates once again, because it's another strong line, you're relying on her for your independence. And then Matt just keeps telling it like it is. You're relying on her. You're relying on her. You're relying on her. You need to get out of there. Get out. Let's move on to the next track here, which is going to be the title track, actually, Soul Mining. Let's dig deep. Dig in. Here we go.
Floating down a tunnel in a little wooden bar.
That just comes running out of there.
Until it ran dry. Like a thief in the night and squeezed all the juice out.
This track has that quiet drive beneath it. Everything, I said it before on the other track, but this one is once again kind of quiet. And this time when the drum comes in, at least for me, it doesn't overpower anything. Now it pushes things along in a perfect way. Especially when it comes in with that little synth line. That sounds so cool. I love that specific tone that's being used and the way it's being played. And it almost sounds kind of underwater. I guess with the song being titled Soul Mining, like you think of mining and being underground. Perhaps you hear the drips of some distant drip happening and it kind of echoes. And the beginning of this track does open up in that kind of scenery. And even as it goes, it does kind of sneak by underground with its growly bass and the way that the synths move. And even afterwards in the final little solo there, when I'm pretty sure it's going to be guitar being played there, but like it all kind of moves like under everything, which I like how subtle this particular track is. It has the drive, but it moves underneath. But at the same time, when the drum do be popping, it pops up like a mole from underground. And thinking once again of mining, yeah, you have that atmosphere, but this is soul mining. This isn't like coal mining. So digging deep within yourself. Let's look at it. You're floating down a tunnel in a little wooden box. You're cold and you're lonely and enveloped in a fog. You've been pried open and left here to die. You should have trusted your instincts because they don't tell lies. Something always goes wrong when things are going right. You swallowed your pride to quell the pain inside. Someone captured your heart like a thief in the night and squeezed all the juice until it ran dry. You've been read like an open book, page by page. You'll never tell anyone you're in your thoughts again. You were taken in by a heart of fool's gold. Now you're drifting in circles in the depths of your soul. I think right here, that line tells you everything you need to know about this song because it just repeats from there, actually. You'll never tell anyone you're in your thoughts again. You've exposed yourself. You told someone you trusted. You told them your not necessarily deepest, darkest secrets, but you told them something that was personal. You opened yourself up to them, and I feel like in this case, he was betrayed, as he says. Someone captured your heart like a thief in the night and squeezed all the juice until it ran dry. So now you have this inner turmoil going on. You have this conflict in your soul or conflict internally. And perhaps now you feel like you'll never open up again. Or it'd be very, very hard and it'd be a long time till you open yourself to that vulnerability again to someone else. And obviously that is definitely a detriment to self. So that's what I think. Good track though. Let's move on into this giant of a track. The next one, which is the longest track of the album, hitting almost 10 minutes long, appropriately named Giant. Here we go.
I'm a stranger to myself.
So Giant being the longest track on the album, I'm expecting a lot. I'm expecting a lot of good things from it. When I see a long track like that is like, almost 10 minutes long, I'm expecting a lot. And just in case it's your first time here, I always mention, if you're going to have a long song, especially, it has to be worth the length of time that it is. And I still think it's easy to make a long song, easier I should say. It's easier to make a 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute song than it is to make a 3-minute, 4-minute song that hits. All right? Anyone can meander around for a long time, but to make a succinct, powerful song in a shorter time, I think is harder. In many cases, not every case. Giant is a song that is of two halves. The first half, I'm going to be honest, I think it's a little bit forgettable. I don't even remember what happened in the first half. I think the first half is, it's just okay. But it's not that interesting. It's a little bit repetitive, and it's a bit monotonous, to be honest. I don't find anything stand out in the first track or in the first half of this track, especially with some of the great stuff we've gotten before. The first half just kind of feels like filler, and I'm like, all right. I've heard this before. It's fine, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't inspire. The second half, especially from when those drums pick up, is different. And I'm a little divided on the second half of this track. Because on one hand, there's a lot going on. And it just keeps on adding and adding and adding. And there's a way of continually adding and layering elements on top, especially to grow into a climactic moment, as it does at the end, that still has, it does it with elegance and it does it with grace. I do feel that the second half with this build-up felt cluttered. I think that there's too much happening at too much, at the same time. On the other hand, I like a lot of what's going on. If the drums, I think this is where I come to. If the drums were just pulled back a little bit, just bring it in a little bit. Maybe not have such a strong body drum in there. Maybe have something of a lighter percussion mixed with some stronger accents in there. I think it would have actually came across a lot better and a lot less dense. Because as it is, while I love the second half of the track melodically, with the chants, with the synths, like I do like that grand explosion. I think the drums underneath are just so forward that to me, it just sounds like a big headache, to be honest. It just sounds like too much. Where if that drum would pull back to something a little bit different, for me, it would have made a greater impact. Even though at the same time, with as cacophonous as it all is, it makes a huge impact. I mean, that's for sure. But yeah, so Giant, if I'm being honest, and also it was one of those tracks where I was looking at the time like, oh, we still have 2 minutes left. Even at the end, we still have a minute left, and it was just too much for me. So I like a lot of what's done melodically. I do like the build up. I like the change. I just wish the drums were pulled back in the second half, and the first half is a little bit forgettable to me. So that's where I'm left with Giant. Lyrics, not a ton to go into in this one. The sun is high and I'm surrounded by sand. For as far as my eyes can see, I'm strapped into a rocking chair with a blanket all over my knees. Sounds comfortable, actually. I'm a stranger to myself and nobody knows I'm here. When I looked into my face, it wasn't myself I'd seen, but who I've tried to be. I'm thinking of things I hope to forget. I'm choking to death in a sun that never sets. I clogged up my mind with perpetual greed and turned all my friends into enemies. And now the past has returned to haunt me. This is perhaps someone who's climbed their way to the top, as it's called, Giant. They've gotten to the top, but at the end of the day, yeah, they're as they say, staring out, sun is high, surrounded by sand. They're in a perfect place, a beautiful paradise in a sense, but they've lost their friends. They've lost who they are. They don't even know who they are when they look at themselves. I'm scared of God. I'm scared of hell. How can anyone know me when I don't even know myself? So a deep, deep self-reflection here. It even says, I'm caving in upon myself. So that's how I view this. Someone who grew and made themselves into a giant. They climbed that mountain, clawed and fought their way to the top. But in the process, they've lost everything, and including themselves. While in perhaps a materialistic way, they've gained everything. But at the end of the day, what does it matter? I do like the lyrics. I like the thoughtfulness behind the lyrics. The song? Let's move on to the final track of the album, ending our listen of Soul Mining. And with that, we are going to finish off with the final track, Perfect. Will it be? It's one way to find out.
It's a chilly English winter, and solitude is never easy. My feet are firmly screwed to the floor. Why does it feel from such a wrecking?
I think that the band ends in a really perfect spot with this particular final closing song here. Getting back to those pop roots, but of course with their little eccentricities and the nuances here. You have the trumpet that starts blowing very, very atmospherically, especially into the back half of the song, where it just wonderfully blows like a dark, dusty wind beneath Matt's voice and the rest of the music. The, xylophone or marimba, whatever it may be, that just kind of lightly taps its metal head throughout the rest of the song as well. And then all of that just culminating in this really nice finishing finale that is as catchy, as it is thoughtful, as it is reflective, as it is introspective, as it always is. I think that works really, really well in the sound that they've done, not only here, obviously, but throughout the rest of this album. It all comes together in just this really nice package, and I feel like this is a really great way to end, especially after the giant of a song previously. Even if you like the song, it's nice to have a shorter kind of, a regular song just to kind of move us back out as we finish listening to the album. But I really enjoyed that. And the trumpet on this particular track is played by Harry Beckett. Now, Harry Beckett, it says, is a British trumpeter and flugelhorn player. Looking at some of what... Ooh, he's played with Charles Mingus. Okay, I see you. Let's see, I'm looking at other names that I may recognize as I'm looking through here. You guys couldn't see this huge piece of dust just fell here. I'm looking through. I don't see any other names that I recognize, but I'm sure there's quite a few that perhaps you do. Robert Wyatt, I see you there. Jaw wobble. Okay. All right. We're getting. Hold on. He's played on Gone to Earth. Harry Beckett. What song did he play on? Huh. Now we're finding something. Now we're somewhere. I see jaw wobble again. A lot of jaw wobble, actually. Okay. All right. I see you now. Let's look at the lyrics here. It's a chilly English winter and solitude is never easy to maintain, especially when it rains. So I hang an empty smile beneath my empty eyes. Is it more of an uncertain smile, perhaps?
No, thanks.
Wait, wrong one.
Please clap.
And go out for a walk. The wet morning sun reflects off the paving stones while a little dog barks its head off in the distance. Oh, what a perfect day to think about myself. My feet are firmly screwed to the floor. What is there to fear from such a regular world? What a perfect day to think to myself. Passing by a cemetery. Well, there you go. Your thoughts are about to turn. I think of all the little hopes and dreams that lie lifeless and unfilled beneath the soil. That's a little bit of a sobering thought, huh? I see an old man fingering his perishing flesh. He tells himself he was a good man and did many good things. Amused and confused by life's little ironies, he swallows his bottle of distilled damnation. People turn around with unseeing eyes. They're looking for something that doesn't exist. The world you once knew is being eaten up by rust. No one has time for the past, but still, in God they trust. The future is now, but it's all going wrong. Body's good for nothing, but it's to nothing they belong. It's a very, sure, realistic, but a very nihilistic kind of view. People say their prayers and some work hard. If you give them all your money, they'll give you their hearts. This town ain't going like a ghost town. It's going like hell. Yeah, it's a little past that. It's going all the way down. It's not even as a ghost town. It's going straight down. Elevator down to the floor. Bottom basement. Anyways, this was a really good album. I still, maybe it's because this is obviously my first time going through the album. I do find myself still preferring Dusk a little bit, but this one was good nonetheless. Favorite track on this album, I would say, is very, very easily Uncertain Smile. I think that captures everything I like from the band. I think it still feels progressive in their own way, but still very, very hardly catchy and strongly melodic with a lot of interesting things going on there. There's a couple weak moments here on the track that I personally don't like, but, I think that overall it is a really good listen. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for spending the time with me here today, as it's been probably an hour and 30 minutes. Wow. Thank you guys for spending the time with me. You didn't have to, but if you stuck around to this point at an hour or 30 minutes, I really do appreciate you sticking by and watching. If you didn't press the like button, however, you really should have done that by the first minute. You really should have done that in the first 30. Matter of fact, you really should have done that when you first clicked on the video, but I'll allow it. Do it now. Subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you're not subscribed and you're watching the whole minute 30s. You may as well subscribe. You can also support what I do on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. You don't have to, but it does go a long way. Even if you do it for 1 month and quit after, it helps out. So thank you for those of you that do that for me. And otherwise, please enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great one out there, and I'll see you all later. Bye, guys.